Let's get ready to rumble!
Before we hit the editor's letter, Mike Tyson has been banned from his speaking engagements in New Zealand. That's for his prior convictions of a sexual nature. And earlier this month, I believe there was a group of women in the UK, I can't remember which part, but they was demonstrating about Mike being able to take part in speaking engagements and earn a living over here. It was a group, obviously, against sex crimes against women. So, yeah. Nobody knows what happened in that room with Mike and Desiree Washington, but I will say this, yeah. If you have a daughter, a young daughter, let's forget the crime or whatever happened. Yeah, I mean, just forget. She's gone into a hotel room with a big man. Must be about 2 a.m. in the morning. What questions would you have for your daughter? Yeah, what did you go there for? Exactly. You know, you see, it's difficult for males like me. It's difficult. I find it very hard to interact into the world because I'm not putting on no face for YouTube. I'm blatantly this cold and blunt in the world, and it's not because I'm being wicked. I just don't have the time, or I don't have the social skills. People make a big deal about developing social skills. Social skills, to some degree, are bogus. That's why kids just tell you straight about things. Oh, she's fat. What you got so much spots in your face for? They just tell you. I mean, social skills allows you to dodge around issues. Spin doctors for politicians have social skills. Unless you're a dumbass, you know how much lies come out of them people's mouths. Social skills. You mean be fake and tell people lies so they don't have to face up to their defects and their imperfections. What was she doing up there? She said she went up there to talk boxing. What the fuck do you know about boxing? Come, be real with me. What did she know about? What was she going to do? Discuss Jim Jacobs' vast library of boxing videos? What was she going to discuss? The long count with Gene Tunney and Jack Dempsey? Does that mean that I prescribe to rape? No, it doesn't. It's vile. It's foul. You know what I mean? It's horrible. It's disgusting to even think of that. Yeah? But the thing is, we don't know what happened in that room. And it's not just for women. It's for everybody. I don't care if you're a 6'8" male and you're built like Vitaly Klitschko. There's certain situations you do not put yourself in. And if you do, I'm not saying you deserved it, but you have to look at the chain of events, don't you? Surely. That led up to what happened to you. Mike was never no choir boy, and he never indicated that he was. Yeah? Mike was running through women quicker than he was knocking out heavyweights, yeah? Right? Mike fought world title fights while he had VD and shit like that and was winning. This Orlando Cruz story is making a lot of waves. And what? There's a lot of dudes out there who perpetrate like they're straight, you know what I'm saying? And I ain't talking about the animal or bird, but on the side they like to suck a cock or two, you know what I mean? That homo shit, yeah? It is what it is, it is what it is. As long as he's not pushing his sexual nature on unconsenting people. You see, the way I see it, you know, this homosexual argument, like the church, oh, you can't let them have gay marriage and this and that. But you know, see, the thing is, look, and I'm very graphic. I'm just not gonna sweeten it up for you. Yeah. I know men. I've heard stories about men who let their wife strap on the dildo and pwned out them back passage. So to me, you're a faggot, man. You know what I mean, right? But because it's done in a heterosexual context, then they think they get a pass. Like I've heard guys say, yeah, they sodomize their women. And I'm thinking, hold on. Us is us, right? So we can make a definitive distinction between man and woman, right? Because woman have vagina, man not have vagina, right? All right? Okay? A biological lesson for you, right? Biological lesson. So you are borrowed for your woman butthole. What's the difference between you and a homosexual? Because let me tell you this now. I would never do a woman's butthole. I would never do it. That's your waste passage for your food, dog. You know what I'm saying? That's not no sexual organ. You know what I mean? The way I see it, what's the big deal? You know what I mean, come on, man. There's been gays, you know what I mean, either in the closet or... why are we so shocked at that now? You know? I don't mean, it's like, ooh, gays, what? And it makes a big story. I don't see why their lifestyle is such a fascination after all this time. I don't understand it. I don't get it, you know? And I don't see why they get in a huff about suppressing it. You know what I mean? Because, look, you can't compare that shit to being black here. You can't compare it to being black. If Cruz chose not to say nothing, then he wouldn't be getting all this attention. And now he's going to be getting some negative attention. Now, unless he don't care, that's cool. But he's brought it all in himself. You can't compare, like, they always compare the gay struggle to the black one. You can't compare that to us, you know what I mean?
When I was a lad, we had indentured bond servants. Stout Cornishmen and Scotsmen.
Indeed, sir, indeed. And if one of them runs away, you couldn't tell him from any other Englishman. But take a black slave, sir. By Harry, no matter how far they run, they're always black.
Look, man, just finished listening to Radio 5 all morning, yeah? Some weirdo abducted a little girl and apparently they're searching for her, but it seems that she's dead, yeah? There's man molesting little children and, look, let grown people go and fuck themselves up. Yeah, you go and fuck yourself. You're entitled. You've earned your stripes. Go and fuck your life up. Whatever. Who cares? Yeah? Who cares? Children need protection. Yeah? The adults who don't consent to a perpetrator who is forcing their deviant ways on them, they need protection. But let these people just do what they're doing. Yeah? Let them do what they're doing. So if Cruz wants to do what he's doing, what's the big deal? I don't see what the big story is, you know. Apparently, Emil Griffiths, I don't know how coherent or sound of thought he was at the time. He was ill at the time, but he made the admission that he was a homosexual. And the guy killed in the ring, Benny Parrott, apparently he was taunting Griffiths about his sexuality, and Griffiths killed him in the ring, boy. I mean, Griffiths bust him up. Yeah, you know, let's not be hypocrites, yeah, because there's a lot of quote-unquote straight men doing a lot of fuckeries, yeah, a whole heap of fuckeries. So I don't see the difference between them and somebody who's come out and said, I don't get it. I really don't get it. You know what I'm saying? I don't get it. Especially the church, you know what I mean? Fucking hell, that's just fucking, it's like Nampla. Catholicism is like Nampla. You know what I'm saying? Let's move on.
With a right, left, you're toothless. And then you say, God damn, they ruthless.
Right now, the triangle in England, I'm alluding to what Tris Dixon's saying. It seems to be Ricky Hatton, Amir Khan, and Kell Brook. But I bet you any money, none of them fights materialize, you know what I mean? Maybe if one of them can pick up a belt, then there might be a chance. But you know, if anybody's thinking, oh, you're gonna see Ricky Hatton versus either Amir Khan or Kell Brook in the next 6 to 8 months, it's not gonna happen, folks. Chris Dixon is making a mistake here. He's like he's comparing the fortunes of Paulie Malignaggi. He's stating the fact that Ricky can take heart from the fact that he beat Malignaggi, and Malignaggi has had a recent resurgence, beating Senchenko. But what Dixon is not taking into account is when Ricky fought Malignaggi, Ricky was already at full pelt in terms of ring ability. He already maxed out. Yeah. Malignaggi, he still had a little physical strength he could develop. And plus, his style is a little more, I know it sounds wrong to say this, but multifaceted than Ricky. Ricky was very strong and he was good at what he did, but nobody's going to beat you over the head and say that Ricky wasn't fairly predictable. Yeah? So, I'm not sure about that analogy. I was never sold on the idea that the Katsides fight was going to materialize, because even though style-wise it would be a better fight for Ricky than a Malignaggi, a Khan, or Kell Brook, because he wouldn't have to go looking for Katsides. Regardless of that, Katsides has stayed in the gym, in the ring, consistently. If we've learned anything about Katsides, that man is dedicated to the sport. Yeah, he's another one. He's maxed out everything he can get out of his talent, you know. But I'm willing to take a bet with you that he doesn't go on them benders in between his fights like Ricky does. He doesn't blow up in weight. You're not going to see him a few weeks after a fight and he's going to have a double chin, having pie and chips in his hand and wilds out like Ricky. So I think it's a good idea he didn't take on Katsides. I really do. I really do. I was speaking to my brethren earlier today. We was talking boxing. And he actually thinks Carlos Molina, this ain't the light middleweight obviously, is a good opponent for Khan. He actually thinks this guy is a decent fighter, you know? And we'll see. We'll see. He's apparently not a very big puncher. I haven't seen much of him, to be honest. I haven't seen much of him. I think I have seen bits of him, but I can't recall what I saw. I can't recall a whole fight I've seen of this Carlos Molina II, you know?
Boards don't hit back.
The panel is asked, would Povetkin stand a chance against Klitschko? Eddie Chambers says, I don't want to disrespect anybody and say they don't have no chance, but the Klitschkos are too dominant, too big, too strong. It's difficult to see anyone beating them right now. Lou DiBella says the Klitschkos are the dominant force in boxing, but he's the most deserving challenger. Says who? Says who? Who knows if he could beat them? That's what makes for a fight. Is he Povetkin's promoter or something? What's going on there? Michael Sprott. No, it depends on which brother he faced. Though he might do well against Vitali because he's getting on a bit, but it would be definitely difficult. Michael Sprott recently was controversially stopped in Germany, and he got kind of pissed off with the referee, and I think he did nearly pitch him over. David Price, British heavyweight champion. I don't think he would win against Vladimir, but maybe he would against Vitali, as it looks like he's slowed down a bit. But Price says that Povetkin's style is made for the Klitschkos. Would the Price fighter work in the US? I'll explain what the Price fighter is after I read this out. Eddie Chambers says, I think so, but I prefer it to be a full fight because it's boxing, but not the real game. I prefer something like the Super 6. Lou DiBella says, yes, the concept would work over here. There's not enough innovative boxing programming here in the US, so yes, I think it could work. Michael Sprott says, yes, I think it would work. There are a lot of boxers over there, and the fans need excitement, especially in the heavyweight division. David Price says, I don't see why not. If it works here, it could work over there. I don't know if the different state commissions would affect it in any way, but it would definitely work. It basically breaks down like this. There you get 8 professional fighters. The tournament is just one evening. Yeah, so basically it's non-stop boxing. There's not much time for a rest, because basically you fight, you finish, somebody else goes in the ring, blah, 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 until everybody's eliminated, and then you get the winner. You know, basically that's how prize fighter works. I think it would initially catch on in America. The only problem I have with the prize fighter is, it's not a problem. I'd like to see an elite level one. That would be interesting. That would be really interesting. It's not completely Barry Hearns' idea. I remember when Tony Tubbs, back in the 90s, he won a similar competition. And I can't remember, I'm not sure if Bone Crusher Smith was in it. There was a couple of names. I mean, I think most of them were past their best, to be honest, you know. But so look out for that across the pond, you know, if there's any developments on that. Alan Presswich on the letters section, he says that Kevin Mitchell just needs to move down a weight and that will revitalize his career. Stephen Reese, he thinks Guillermo Rigondeaux is overrated because he was hurt twice by Marroquin. You see, is Rigondeaux as good as we hyped him up to be? There's no way to tell until he gets that big fight, because unless he does take on elite competition, we're just not going to find out. They're not going to beat him. They're not going to beat him. People said that he looked bad in the last fight. Yeah, he got stunned by a couple of punches or whatever, but, you know, I still like a lot of the guy's moves, even in that performance there, as far as I'm concerned. American was no mug. I mean, who's to say that Marroquin couldn't give Noshiaka or Donaire a hard fight? Who's to say that? Or Maris or Moreno? Who's to say? Jim McGowan is not very happy with Larry Holmes, saying he was a great boxer and a worthy champion, but his subjective, egotistical views betray a man not entirely happy with how the cards have fallen for him. He's talking into reference how Holmes talks dismissively of how he would have beat Tyson if he was in his prime. The Marciano couldn't carry my jock strap, you know, and shit like that. Yeah, Larry talked a lot of smack, but he walked the walk. Andre Ward, pound for pound, best fighter in my opinion. But the Joe Calzaghe debate, I'm not sure if Joe, after taking all this time out of the ring, can really make a fight of it. I doubt he could now. But I'm going to say this. I am going to say this. I'm not sure if Joe could have beat Andre Ward, but that volume punching wasn't normal. That won most of his major fights, is the volume punching. And sometimes the only way to overcome a really clever fighter is just to throw loads, just throw a whole load of shots, you know what I mean, and maybe try bamboozle the judges. And I will say, I think Calzaghe could run Ward close. I don't think there's no super middleweight who could beat Joe Calzaghe easy. I just don't see that happening. That's just me analyzing boxing straight down the middle and just measuring man to man. I don't see nobody beating Joe Calzaghe easy unless they KO'd him. You know, it could be one of them fights where maybe if it was held in the UK, it could be a disputed decision. I would tip Ward beforehand. I would go for Ward. But it's not the cakewalk like I've heard a lot of Ward supporters say it would be. You know, that's just my opinion. Boxing tweets at Andre Ward. Dawson victory behind me. Back at work. Andre Ward, the undefeated #1 super middleweight, is back in the gym. No, the undefeated #1 boxer in the world is back in the gym. At Frankie Gavin 1, in the gym at 10:30. Good session before sparring tomorrow on Thursday with Adil Anwar ahead of our title fights. Frankie Gavin is preparing for his British welterweight challenge against Junior Witter and the Lonsdale belt. At James DeGale 1, who said Sunday is a day of rest. Strength run done, now family time and a munch. James DeGale, the European champion, knows what he has to do to defend his title later this month. At Special K Brook, that's Kell Brook, he's bigging up Scott Quigg for winning the Young Boxer of the Year award. At Jamie McDonald 1, I think I might have to get myself to this prize fighter this weekend. Cracking lineup. He's looking forward to seeing the prize fighter this week. At St. George Groves, woke up nervous today like I'm boxing, except I'm not boxing, I'm getting married. George Groves. Who has the harder fight coming up? Ricky Hatton or Amir Khan? Hatton's fighting, is it this Shevchenko? Hopefully I didn't butcher that. And Khan is fighting Carlos Molina. Not the Molina who fought Kirkland, but a different one. The poll says Ricky Hatton by 83% to Khan's 17% has the tougher fight. Lee Skadavis, he says, I don't think there is any easy fight for Khan because he makes a war out of them. But I'll go with Hatton as he's facing a former world champion at a weight that he has only fought twice. Great point by Lee there, great point. Just got to read this poll here on the Boxing News, and 63% of the poll think that Ricky Hatton is going to fail on his comeback, with 37% saying he'll make a success of it. I forgot to read this poll out a few weeks back. It's not this week's one, so I just thought I'd let you know. It's quite shocking, considering that most of that poll would have been, I assume, taken in the UK. Although Boxing News has a lot of subscribers outside of the UK who come on the Boxing News online on Facebook. So that's quite a shock that it's that high. I suppose people can't get that last image of him laying flat out on his back after the Pacquiao fight. You know, he's going to have to do a lot to erase that memory out of the consciousness of the boxing public. Right. I'm reading this from the magazine they didn't send me, so I might as well do the 10 count and give you. This is a better 10 count from Matt Christie than the one he done about Evander Holyfield and all his losses. So this one is called Best for Last. Basically, he's going through a lot of fights that got rescued by boxers who were trailing on points and rescued it in the last round. So we start with #1, Chavez and Taylor. I've got a few subscribers who get pretty heated when they discuss this fight. 2 seconds were left when Richard Steele signaled Meldrick Taylor would not be allowed to hit a final bell and claim a points victory that he so deserved. Julio Cesar Chavez managed to pull the fight from out of the fire. Taylor remains haunted by the memories and the ghosts of that moment to this day. #2, Jake LaMotta versus Lawrence Dorthil. Middleweight champion LaMotta knew he was behind going into the final seconds of his 1950 defense against Dorthil. He opted to sit on the ropes and feign discomfort and goad his rival into mistakes. With 1 minute left in the 15th round, the tactic worked. LaMotta pummeled his rival into submission with 13 seconds to spare. I want to say something after this 10 count. Let me read it out and I'll just say it. #3, Froch versus Taylor. Froch was 106-102 down on 2 of the scorecards. He struck early in the definitive session, stinging and staggering Taylor. He tore into the American, capturing success with just 14 seconds to go. Wow, he really pulled that one out of the fire, man. Number 4, Briggs versus Lajkovic. Shannon Briggs was behind on points after 11 boring rounds against the WBO heavyweight boss Lajkovic. 2 minutes and 59 seconds later, the Cannon had dropped his rival twice to win the belt. How Shannon did that one, I don't know, because he was so tired. He was so tired. Like, you could see after the fight, he was exhausted. But I suppose it wasn't just physical. It was the euphoria that he managed to do that. That's just like, wow. He must have took hours to come back off that high. Hours. That must have been just an adrenaline shot. Mike Weaver versus John Tate comes in at number 5. Yeah, some old school shit. From somewhere, Mike Weaver found the energy to dispatch a left hook off Tate's jaw. The WBA heavyweight champion collapsed face first, his title gone, with 45 seconds remaining in round 15. And the funny thing is with John Tate, shortly after, in a non-title fight, obviously, he fought Trevor Berbick, and the same thing happened to him. I think roughly the same thing happened to him. He went into one big lead, and it was a last round finish by Berbick, and Berbick just knocked him out with not very long left. Sorry to digress, but John Tate is another former world champion who just fell on some very, very hard times. I remember reading he was homeless. I know he couldn't read or write, and just, you know, the usual shit, mismanagement, cocaine, and he died a good few years back, man. I mean, just sad. But we continue. Number 6, Eubanks versus Watson, the second fight. The aftermath of this 1991 rematch provides a harrowing warning about the danger that lurks between the great courage of boxers. Decked heavily at the close of the 11th, Watson briefly hauled himself off his stool to come out for the 12th round, but Eubank would not be denied. Whew, wow. Let me try and be brief here, because this one is just vivid memories. Like, the first fight was a very controversial draw, and basically, most of the British public and press didn't like Chris Eubank because of the whole pompous image, you know, which he played them so well with that shit, right? And Watson was normally a counterpuncher. He was disappointed by the first result. To me, Watson got buoyed up by the public support saying that he won and how they wanted him to finish Eubank off in the rematch and get rid of him, you know. The fight took place at White Hart Lane. That's my football team's ground, Tottenham Hotspur. And basically, let me show you the dynamics. Watson is an Arsenal supporter. Tottenham and Arsenal are North London rivals. It's one of the biggest rivalries in football, not just British, in football. Yeah? Basically, Arsenal hate us and we hate Arsenal. So I think Watson maybe had Arsenal shorts on, or red shorts. You know what I mean? Same colour. Eubanks, I don't think, was a Tottenham fan. He was wearing Tottenham shorts. And the crowd, it was just like a fever pitch, proper atmosphere. And them days, there was no cable. It was just, well, some people had Sky, but for the most part, this was a terrestrial television event. Big viewing figures. Right? And I remember me and my brethren was watching this fight. Let me just give you the rundown. Like, Tim Westwood was DJing for Michael Watson. He played Mama Said Knock You Out. That was Watson's ring walk music, and he never used that before. So all the nice Christian boy image, that was gone. He wanted to do damage. And the fight starts. Watson doesn't fuck about. He establishes himself from the jump. He's outboxing and outpunching Eubanks. Yeah? He's fighting fearlessly. Fearlessly. And to a degree, recklessly, considering that he's normally a counterpuncher. And he's dominating his fight, dominating it. And I think it was about round 5. Eubanks got a few punches in. And here and there, he's getting a few punches in. But nothing out of the ordinary. Watson just kept dominating Eubanks, dominating him, out-punching him, combination punching. Eubanks was falling off balance after he was trying to get counter shots in. He was just getting dominated. And 11th round comes. Watson, well ahead on points. And he's not content with a points victory, because after the first fight, he's thinking, yo, fuck the judges, man. Let me take this in my own hands. And Watson just keeps volume punching. Eventually, Eubanks crumbles to the floor. I'm a Eubanks fan, yeah? I'm a big Eubanks fan. I'm thinking, oh, fuck, man. He crumbles to the floor. So I'm thinking, okay, title's gone. Somehow, Eubanks struggles off the canvas, stands erect. Watson, the counterpuncher, has no thoughts of counterpunching today. He wants glory. And who can blame him? You know, 99% of us would have done exactly what Michael did on the night. He goes in to finish Eubanks. Now let's bear in mind that Michael Watson is normally a counterpuncher. He goes in for the booty. Eubanks throws a right uppercut. That must have come from our kinfolk, man. It couldn't have just landed with more dramatic impact. And there was a left hand to follow. Watson goes down on the seat of his trunks. His back hits the ropes. The impact whiplashes his neck on the 3rd rope. You can visibly see this whiplash effect. He gets up, and he's obviously in bad shape. He's in bad shape. Eubanks goes in to finish it. There's not enough time on the clock. Watson can barely walk back to his corner. The referee actually puts his hand on Watson's arm and sort of assists him. Sort of like, when he puts his hand in his arm, the signal seems to register to Watson, okay, I've got to walk back to the corner. He gets back to the corner. They're vigorously trying to revive him. Somehow they get him back up for the 12th round. As Michael's standing up, we clearly see his legs wobble. That's probably an insight that the referee, who was in the heat of the battle, couldn't see like we saw it on television. Eubanks is in no great shape himself now, you know what I'm saying? But he dredges up the last of his reserves and he finishes the job. Watson's still on his feet when the fight finishes, but the referee has to step in and save him. Eubanks celebrates his victory, and there's this idiot who used to interview for ITV back in the day. His name was Gary Newbon. This guy was the biggest dickhead who ever walked the planet, or at least in the top 10. Right? Like, he would interview fighters after they fought hard 12-rounders. Well, do you think your performance was good enough? And I remember one time, Nigel Benn, you could see it on his face, he wanted to lay him out. And I wish he did. So, Eubanks, similar to Shannon Briggs, you know, it's just like, wow, his body's just gone through 12 rounds of torture. Yeah, this man battered him around the ring and somehow he's pulled the fight out of the fire. Obviously, Eubanks, you can see it, you know what I mean? He's lucid, but the euphoria and the delirium takes over Chris doesn't know where he is. He's on a different realm. The adrenaline has taken Chris. I mean, right? You can see it, yeah? And Chris says to Newburn, I can't believe this fight. I can't believe how hard he's pushed me. I'm paraphrasing. I want him tested. I want him tested. He doesn't mean it. It's a backhanded compliment to say, damn, how do you manage to fight like that? It's a backhanded compliment. And this idiot, Newburn, oh, you trying to say he's on drugs, are you, Chris? Okay, let's stop digressing. Fuck Gary Newburn. While the interview is being carried out, we notice some activity in Michael Watson's corner. He's collapsed. So the story now switches from Eubank's moment of glory to Michael Watson literally fighting for his life. From what I remember, they didn't have the adequate oxygen or gas at ringside or equipment, which Watson needed. So Watson's on a stretcher. He goes into the hospital. I think they take him to, if not North Middlesex, they take him to either North Middlesex or Bartholomew's. And they've taken him to the wrong hospital. They haven't managed to work out that the equipment he needs so he can get medical aid is not at Bartholomew's, or it's not at North Middlesex. I don't know what hospital they took him to first. It's not at either one of these hospitals. So they have to go to another hospital. Maybe they went from North Middlesex to Bartholomew's or something like that. And with these head injuries, the quicker you get it into the surgery or the operating room or operating theater, the better. Yeah? The more time you take, the more damage the fighter will incur. So they managed to get Watson to the correct hospital with the correct equipment. And he's in a coma now. He's in a coma. But vital minutes have been wasted. It was at least 30 to 40 minutes that have been wasted. He's recovered from it since then. He's recovered. I mean, not fully, but he's recovered. And he's coherent, and he can walk, and he still has a good standard of life. He still has a relatively good standard of life. According to all medical reports, it's a miracle that he's still on the planet, living and breathing to the air. He eventually sued the British Boxing Board of Control for a good amount of money, and rightly so, you know. They got sued. I can't remember the figure, but it was a big sum, and it basically broke them. They was nearly out of business. In fact, they still haven't financially recovered from that hit.
He was raced down to the wrong hospital. It took 45 minutes for him to get any real medical assistance. It was very, very worrying for everyone.
At number 7, Audley Harrison versus Michael Sprott. Audley was way behind on points in this vacant European heavyweight title fight when he produced a stunning left hand towards the end of the 12th round and pulled the fight out of the fire. At number 8, Alvarado versus Wajima. This is the only fight on the list that I've never heard of. World light middleweight champion Koichi Wajima used the last of his reserves in the penultimate stanza before being dropped 3 times in the 15th of a wild 1974 slugfest with Oscar Alvarado. At number 9, Terry Dunstan versus Carl Thompson. I felt I was losing going into the last, and I kind of panicked, said Carl Thompson, the master of 9 lives, after beating Dunstan. But I kept punching and I kept working. Number 10, Shane Mosley versus Ricardo Mayorga. As the battle of the veterans wound down, it looked too close to call. Mosley removed any element of doubt when he dropped Mayorga with a thud at 2:59 in round 12. he was trailing on one card. According to the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Sergio Martinez, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. took $3 million in gate revenue, and Saul Alvarez versus Cito Lopez took $1.6 million. Thomas Hearns is about to turn his hand at promoting. He has a bill on October the 12th, and his company is called Hitman Entertainment. The first event will take place at the Taylor Sportsplex in Michigan. Ronald Hearns, his son, will be heading the bill. Seth Mitchell takes on Jonathan Banks. And something's telling me there could be an upset. I don't know why. Maybe I'm wrong. That will be on the same bill as Adrian Broner against Antonio DeMarco. I don't know. We'll see. I think that's going to be a good fight, though. It's going to be a good fight. Frank Bruno had a recent spell in a clinic to address some of his mental issues, but he's out now. Let's hope he can stay out of them place them. Like them place they're still, you know what I mean? That's just my opinion. What do I know? I don't work in that field. I just don't like them places. Brian McGee seems to get a lot of world title shots and European title shots. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve none of them, but he's fighting Mikkel Kessler for the WBA World Super Middleweight title. To be honest, Kessler hasn't done much to get a shot at that belt, really. Who did he knock out? Alan Green? You know what I mean? I don't know. I didn't know about this story here, but former British and European middleweight challenger Sean Cummins was murdered, aged 44. Cummins was paralyzed from the chest down after a motorbike crash in 2004. His body was discovered by the police a few weeks back at his Leicester home. And the former amateur boxer Thomas Dunkley, 28 years of age, was arrested on suspicion of his murder. I remember Cummins fighting Neville Brown for the British title, and he started off well, but Brown got his measure. Apparently, Cummins' dad was a bit of a bastard, and he grew him up really hard. He forced him to box, and he was just a very hard man. Reports suggest that some of Cummins' body parts were found in Cummins' freezer. Blood clot, boy, that's just gruesome. I was rooting for Troy Ross against Juan Pablo Hernandez, and it was a very, very close fight. And I thought they could have gave it to Ross. He did hurt the guy a few times, but it's just one of them things still, you know what I mean? So maybe they could have a rematch.
We remember the days, don't we, of Ben Eubank, Collins, and the rematches, which were great. They all fought each other. Watson as well.
Yeah, great rivalries. I mean, if these two fight each other, add Ricky Hatton into the mix, that will sell out any football stadium, and the whole country will be talking about it. So I'm really looking forward to those fights if they happen.
Twitter's going absolutely crazy.
But there's a massive demand for these two to get this fight on. So we're hearing it from the horse's mouth. He's saying he got the best part of sparring. He said he did.
It's been going on years. Everyone's. What about Amir Khan? For years when I started professional, I've always wanted it. People saying this, that. So we need to get it on.
Definitely, I still think I'm a league above, but, if I have to step back a league and have to go down and knock him out, then I might have to do that, But look,
does this go back to the sparring?
I mean, I think so. I think he's going to be bitter about how I treated him in sparring. Maybe that's why he's still bitter about that. That's why he wants to do that. So we'll make it happen one day. Like I said, I'm still 140. When I move to 147, I will move up and I will knock Kell Brook out. Now, I've said it in front of everybody there.
He gets knocked out every time. I'll knock him out.
We'll see what happens. Like I said, it's something... He's going to have his opinion, I'm going to have my opinion.
You can't hold the shot.
They've kept Audley Harrison quiet here.
You can't hold the shot.
I don't remember.
Don't stop me, Audley. Don't stop me.
Calm it down, Jennifer. You got tired.
He likes to have a fight. He's on about his chain trainer, smart in his defence. When he gets into it,
have you been in with anyone decent? Have you been in with anyone decent? Have you been in anyone decent? You turn down Bradley. You turn down Bradley. You turn down Mike Down. The likes of Mike Down.
I'll fight Bradley. I'll do a unification fight with Bradley when I win my world title.
If he beats Bradley, I'll fight the winner Bradley and Kell Brook.
You always saying stuff. You said that about Matthew Hatton. You said fight Matthew Hatton, then fight me.
I didn't say that. I did not say that. But listen, if I fought you, I will knock you out.
It's in the melting pot. We've got to stop it for now. Thanks to Kell. Time out, Audley. Well done.
See, if you're going to go in on each other like that, then, to me, after your next fights, there's no other fights out there for you guys to take, really. You can't smack talk each other like that and not fight each other by after your next fights. That's if both of you get through them. I don't see what other fight you're gonna make. You know what I mean? This is the only fight in the UK which either one of you can take, because you're not gonna get the Ricky Hatton fight after your next fight. Yeah, this is the only fight that makes sense to British boxing fans. Kell Brook has a big enough profile to sell this fight. Not only in the UK, they can sell it to America. You can't be, yeah, I'm going to knock you out and this and that, and then you don't fight. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, you know? I think all the British YouTube channels should dedicate a lot of their content and gear it towards these two fighting. They should be pressured into fighting. I mean, the newspapers, the publications, that's what needs to happen. I mean, forget just the British channels. I mean, just boxing channels in general. I know you guys want to see it. I know you guys want to see it. Especially after you hear talk like that. You want to see this fight. You know what I mean? Look how they're talking to each other. They're on the same television studio at Sky Sports. This was on ringside. I mean, really and truly, they might as well just forget Molina, forget this Saldivia, forget them. Just for you mean you guys just get that on. You know what I mean? Get a bit of time to build up. June next year would do. You know? You know what I'm saying? None of this we need to build the fight. It's sold already. It's sold already, you know. The winner out of you two taking on Ricky Hatton, you know what I'm saying? He is sold. If you don't check yourself in this world, you can become a spoilt brat. I couldn't get the internet connection to work. And I get really frustrated. And I'm thinking, hold on. Why am I so addicted to computers, being online, phones, and all these modern day gadgetry? I remember I used to live, I'm not saying I want to go back to these days, but I used to be fine without all these things. No anxiety, you know? And, you know, I've just got to check myself. I have to get that balance right in my life. I need that shit. You know what I mean? I don't have no right for the internet to work every time. You know, I don't know, man. To get perspective with a lot of shit. Do something else, you know what I mean? It's back now. It's back. So here I am. Andre Ward might be fighting Kelly Pavlik. According to the Boxing News, that fight is on the table. It's a possibility. And could be a good fight. Could be a good fight. Be interesting to see how Ward deals with Pavlik in comparison to Hopkins and Sergio Martinez. Amir Khan has joined his stable, so to speak. They got the same trainer now, Virgil Hunter. I think people are oversimplifying that. And it seems like people are just simplifying this one point about this one fighter constantly. His defense, his defense, his defense, his defense. You know, look, only so much defense you can do. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you was to get the whole top 10, let's say welterweights, Manny Pacquiao, Bradley, Paulie Malignaggi, Bailey, Devon Alexander, all of them, man. If you was to get all of them, man, Tim Bradley, yeah? And you was to give them all Floyd Mayweather defenses. Here's the facts. Some of them are going to have better resistance to punches than the others. That's just how it's going to go, yeah? Some of them are still going to get knocked out. It's percentages, you get what I'm saying? Like, how defensive do you want him to be? Don't you want him to throw no punches at all? That's the thing with boxing, yeah? And I don't want to keep bringing up Johnny Nelson, but he is a great example of any time I need an analogy to explain the scenario. If you see his first fight against Carlos de Leon, he was determined not to get hit, but that meant not winning the fight. You see, with boxing, there's a balance. Yes, defense should be your best friend. No doubt about that. But what's the point? boxing if you're not trying to win? Now, Johnny Nelson implemented defense, but he froze on the night. He froze. He didn't want to get hit. He didn't want to get hit. I mean, I don't think Khan wants to do that. You see, it's no point me going through the names. The top fighters, and I don't care if you don't like them, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Bernard Hopkins, Andre Ward, Adrian Broner, Cotto, you name them. Donaire, Martinez, the Klitschko's. You know, some people might accuse some of the fighters who I just listed there as boring. But the point is, they have enough offense to win the fight. And to me, if Khan just even goes by that simple ethos of just implementing enough offense as opposed to being really reckless, just so he can win the fight, even that measure puts a chin like his in danger of getting crumbled. I'm afraid that's just how it is. My assessment is, I don't think Amir Khan can fight 3 fights on the trot at top level without getting chinned, knocked out, or hurt really badly. I just don't think he can do it. I don't think Ricky Hatton can fight 3 fights on the trot at the top level without getting hurt really badly or stopped. I don't think Kell Brook can fight 3 fights on the trot at top level without getting exposed. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. And I'm sticking by it. I don't know why a lot of people are heading towards Manny Pacquiao knocking out Marquez in this fight. What has changed for this shift in the pills? I don't get it. I don't get it. I see a similar outcome, you know? But Marquez may need to look and modify how he finishes the last few rounds, you know? He at least needs to look busy to try and con some of the judges, you know what I'm saying? Lee Purdy, a British welterweight, is taking on Carson Jones at Muswell Hills Alexander Palace. Tony Bellew apparently is heading the bill against an Argentine fighter who you've never heard of, named Roberto Bolonti. Well, maybe you have heard of him. Lee Purdy is a tough domestic fighter. He hasn't really got to the top at European level yet, but he's a decent fighter. And let's see how Carson Jones approaches this fight. Because a lot of people disagree with me, saying he has a journeyman's mentality. If he gives away early rounds, and listen, there's some very good boxing channels on YouTube, very good pundits, but if you don't go around telling people that the way that it was tactically sound what he was doing in the first 6 rounds against Carl Brook, just walking him down, not throwing no punches. The hell with that? Look, maths, not good at. English, I was quite good at that in school. Maths, no good. But even my base grasp of mathematics tells me if you give away the first 7 rounds, you only have 5 to retrieve it. That means unless knockdowns or penalties for fouls or divine intervention from God, you can't win the fight. You can't win the fight. So he can't rely on a big finish this time. He needs to get his shit off early. And he's boxing away from home as well. Yeah? He needs to make an impression from early. And that's what you're supposed to do anyway. Even if you're boxing on home turf, you know what I mean? And you've got home advantage with the ref and the crowd. I'm going to say it again. Top level and elite fighters, champions and challengers do not give away 7 rounds. It doesn't happen. They might lose 7 rounds because the opposition is just boxing superlatively on some sublime level, but they don't give away 7 rounds. There's a difference. So we'll see. Ken Norton is in far better shape than what was initially reported, and that's good news. Sources close to the former WBC heavyweight champion say Ken is as strong as a horse, which is a good look. Scott Quigg pipped Mr. Fury to be named as Britain's best young boxer by the British Boxing Writers Club. Andre Berto could challenge Cornelius Bundridge as early as November the 24th. The fight could take place. I don't really dig the way some of you don't want Cornelius Bundridge to get a big fight, you know. I really don't appreciate that, you know. The man have him IBF light middleweight strap, and he won that legitimately. Despite what we want to say about the defects in his style, he has maxed out his potential. And you can't ask for no more than that. There has been fighters who are, you could say, more gifted than Cornelius, but they haven't maxed out their gifts. He's maxed out his credit card, yeah? And he's got a title. He's got a title. He started as a man who people said, oh, this guy is an awful fighter. And now look at him. You know what I'm saying? Do your thing, dog. Odlanier Solis, the Cuban heavyweight, takes on the unbeaten Leif Larsen, who sounds like a Danish fighter. And he was supposed to fight Thomas Adamek, and that fight has fallen through. You know what I'm getting sick of these days? It's all these potentially good-looking matches are being spoken about, even by the two fighters, and then they don't materialize. You know? That's really getting annoying. That's one trend in boxing I wish would stop. I wish fighters and promoters wouldn't call out other fighters unless they've got something on the table for us. That would be appreciated, I must say. Why did Sky Sports have the ringside program with Kell Brook? I've got to bring this back up again. With Kell Brook and Amir Khan talking up a brilliant fight between them, and we have no date. We have no... Imagine if the casual boxing fan was watching this. The casual boxing fan or the casual sports fan. He'd be saying, wow, that sounds like a really good matchup. When's it happening? It's not happening. He goes off and he forgets all about it. How can you get any momentum like... You shouldn't have had them in the ringside studio in Sky Sports, giving it all that talk there, and you knew it was going to happen because they've had a war of words on Twitter and before Twitter. Yeah, they've had this big rivalry. They only live around the corner. Sheffield is not that far away from Bolton. Yeah, right? They've had this big rivalry for years. For years. Brook saying that he can knock him out. Khan saying that Brook ain't ready for him. Yeah? And we have no date. We have no date set. Instead, who's Brook fighting? A hard-punching Argentinian guy who in Britain is going to be looking for that fight? Who in Britain is going to be looking for that fight? Khan is fighting Carlos Molina. And it's not even the Molina that the grassroots fans know. It's some other guy promoted by Gold. Who knows these guys? Nobody knows them. Yeah? These fights, their next fights only mean something to the hardcore fans. That's all it means. The fight sells itself. You had them in the studio promoting a fight what should generate millions, and they're not fighting each other. What if one of them gets knocked out next fight? It doesn't make no sense. Both of them have had near 30 fights. What more build-up do you need? I don't get it. I don't get what you're doing anymore. I don't understand it. At the least, before they came into the studio, there should have been some agreement that if they both win their next fights, that's it. Khan and Brook. We didn't get that. We didn't get that. You know? You don't need no belt. You don't need no world championship belt for that fight. You don't need it. Yeah? Hey and Chisora, they didn't have no world championship belt on the line. It was one of the biggest profile fights in the sport this year. It's ridiculous. Despite the disappointing performance at London 2012, 6 of the 9 American men's boxing team have been signed by Al Heyman. That is the super heavyweight Dominique Breazeale, I don't know if I got that right, light heavyweight Marcus Brown, I nearly said Marcus Garvey. That's a middleweight, Terrell Gorsha. Welterweight, Errol Spence Jr. And light welterweight, Jamil Herring. And flyweight, Rashid Warren, who that guy Dante pointed out to me in one of his videos. He was in the World Series of Boxing, and he's a very good prospect, this Rashid Warren, you know. Big up Dante, you know, he's a great talent spotter. And I love the names, man, you know what I mean? I love the names. Marcus, Errol, you know what I mean? Rashid, Tyrrell's not too popular over here, but you American brothers got the same names as the brothers over here. You know what I'm saying? I love that shit. I mean, keep that shit going. You know what I mean, I love it. I love that. Traditional. You know what I mean? They're not even African names, but they're English names. But you know what I mean? We've just owned them names. You know what I'm saying? Ricky Burns could be back in the ring as early as the 15th of December. Well, that makes sense because he's not going to be in no aches and pains, or his body isn't really going to be sore after the Mitchell fight. And the thing is, if you have a really good training camp, why waste it? Why wait? You might as well keep the momentum going. Why waste it? I mean, there's a chance he might have a fight early next year against the winner out of Broner and DeMarco. And yeah, I think Broner's going to win that fight. If you're asking me, I mean. Both fights, I think he's going to beat Burns and DeMarco. You know what I mean? Arrests have been made following a tip-off. 3 Zimbabweans were arrested for the murder of former WBO heavyweight champion Corey Sanders. The 3 men aged between 19 and 20 were picked up in the Akasi informal settlement near Brits. Sanders, 46, was fatally wounded when robbers walked into a restaurant and opened fire. The Boxing News World Rankings for the strawweight division reads as so. At number 1, Kazuto Ioka. At number 2, Mario Rodriguez. At number 3, Kosanathi Joyi. At number 4, Akari Yagashi. At number 5, Juan Hernandez. I'm not going to lie, doing the strawweight divisions and the flyweight divisions is a bit of a pain in the neck to do my rating system. But I'm going to do it this week. The number 1 strawweight, Kazuto Ioka, is a bit of a handful. He's already disposed of Juan Hernandez, who is in 5th place, and he's beaten Akara Yagashi. So he's no joke, obviously. The number 2, Mario Rodriguez, he knocked out Kosinathi Joyi not too long ago, just a few weeks back, and took his IBF minimum weight title. That's really confusing. Like, okay, I know you had minimum weight. I'm assuming, I don't know where I'm at now. Why? Minimum weight. What the fuck? Minimum weight. Why? Like Kenneth Keenan, you know. Fucking hell, man. Jesus Christ. Boxing just doesn't help itself. It just doesn't help itself. I mean, these guys have a hard enough time getting their profile up. Minimum weight. Where'd that come from? The number 3 minimum weight, strawweight, that's what I'm calling it, strawweight. Kosinathi Joyi. He doesn't have any names in the top 5 on his record. Akari Yagashi, the number 4 ranked strawweight, doesn't have no names who appear in the top 5. He has, however, beaten the likes of Ponsawan Pamuk, who was a very good world champion. And the Mexican who stands at number 5, Juan Hernandez, he has no names on his record either who are in the top 5 list. So that completes that. I'm going to assume that minimum weight is strawweight. Don't call it minimum weight. Don't do that to them. Don't do that. You know what I mean? if my memory serves me correct, the strawweight division hasn't been in boxing that long. Not that long. Maybe the 90s is when it came about. I remember in the 80s when there was no strawweight division. There was no strawweight division. Right? So these guys are low profile enough as it is for you to be calling it another name. Minimum weight. Damn. You've got to let certain things set in stone. You know what I mean? You can't just keep adding names, adding belts, adding different titles, and it's crazy. It's crazy, you know? Wow. We go to the hit and the miss section. Ricky Hatton comes in at number 1 because he's making a comeback against Sinchenko. At number 2, we have Lee Purdy, a British welterweight who has earned himself a date in December with Carson Jones. Number 3 is Curtis Woodhouse, the ex-footballer, rebounded from a stoppage loss last time out to defeat Dave Rocky Ryan for the English light welterweight title. And I owe Curtis Woodhouse an apology for saying he was a third-rate boxer. Well, I didn't say he was a third-rate, but no, I did. There's no way. I am apology. No, but I was just questioning why he would have switched roles from being a professional footballer, and even at the third tier of British footballer, they get a decent salary. You know what I'm saying? Why he would do that to start at the third tier of professional boxing? I'm not saying he would have always stayed there. I'm just saying that's where he was at the time. But now he's got an English title, which is just below the British title. So, you know, he's making strides. You know what I mean? At number 4, we have the World Boxing Council. They're getting props this week because they're working with the watchmakers called Hublot to start a $1 million pension fund for boxers in need. How does that work then? Is that going to be for the fighters who have won titles under the World Boxing Council? Is it fighters who have been ranked by the World Boxing Council? Because if it was that, I don't know if that pension can spread that far, because you know what I mean? I don't know how. I don't know. If anyone knows, they need to do a video on it. If they've got details. And in the miss section, we have Mark Thompson, who suffered his second defeat at the hands of Jack Culkay in Hamburg. Thompson comes from Lancashire. And at number 3, we have Jason Booth. Too Smooth looked worn out at the age of 34 as Martin Ward handed him his 5th consecutive defeat. At number 2, we have the World Boxing Association, who somehow made Hasim Rahman the mandatory challenger to Alex Povetkin, and the American looked awful, losing in 2 rounds. And at number 1, we have Danny Williams. The Brixton Bomber got bombed out in 4 rounds by prospect Christian Hammer in Germany. And the Boxing News says that Danny should call it a day.
Protect yourselves at all times.
Gary Russell recalls the time when he qualified for the 2008 Beijing Olympics. He did that by defeating the French boxer in the World Amateur Championships. When he was in the Olympic Village, he lost consciousness and collapsed just hours before the official weigh-in, and he didn't recover in time to make the weigh-in. So he got ruled out of the Olympics. Obviously, as stated here, this was a traumatizing experience, and he's still not clear on what were the factors that led to his collapse. Apparently, a few other athletes were taken sick as well, and reporters. It was quite a controversy. It nearly came to a stage where he took a lawsuit out on USA Boxing because of how badly the situation was handled. He actually fought Robert Marroquin at the US Olympic trials in 2007, and Marroquin outpointed him. From what I'm reading here, he actually fought Marroquin 3 times and he beat him the other 2 times. Marroquin was no muppet, by the way, all those writing off Rigondeaux after his performance against Marroquin. Marroquin was far from a muppet, alright? And because he lost to Marroquin in the trials, he had to go through the challengers bracket of the tournament. And I think the only boxers to claim a place going that route, as far as American amateur boxing, is Evander Holyfield, Roy Jones, and Floyd Mayweather Jr. So that tells you what kind of task it is to, how hard it is to go that route. You probably have to fight a whole heap of boats at everything there, but he did it. He's still relatively untested, despite glowing headlines and some glowing performances, and some of the fastest hands that probably belong in the sport currently, in all truth. So I guess 2013 will be a very interesting year to see how the Gary Russell story develops.
I am the greatest!
Just want to relay a little story about the Muhammad Ali-Rocky Marciano computer fight that took place in 1969. This is how that went down. They got the two fighters into, I'm not sure if it was a television studio or wherever, but and Rocky was getting on a bit, and I remember reading that they fitted him up with a black wig, so he didn't look like a granddad on the screen. And how they did this, they filmed every scenario of how the bout could end. So they had one sequence or segment where Ali won on points, where Rocky won on points, where Ali won by stoppage or KO, and where Marciano won by stoppage and KO. Obviously, the editing wasn't completed till way after the fighters were finished with their part of the filming. And when they put it all together, there were 6 drafts, 6 different drafts with potentially different endings. They got rid of 6 or 5, as far as I can remember. And there was only one left, and that was the one that they played in the cinemas back then, and that's the one that Marciano knocked out Ali. I have a theory on that, because there's film footage of them showing Ali the remaining copy, the one that was played in the theater, and the one where Marciano won. And while Ali was watching it, because he didn't know the outcome until he watched the footage, he wasn't best pleased. I think they kind of conned Ali. I think they conned him. I think they filmed all the footage and they probably said, yeah, it's going to be very complimentary to you and whatever. And it wasn't. Ali lost by a KO in the 8th round. And I'm not sure if The Rock could have KO'd Ali in 8. You know what I mean? So I think what they did is, so I think because Ali had a big ego, he thought he was the greatest. There's no way they discussed it with him to say, yo, you're going to lose this by 8th round KO. Or he wouldn't have been so shocked when he was watching it back. Well, not shocked, but he was in a somber mood, to say the least. So they probably just gassed him up while he was, oh, yo, what's up, champ, and this and that. Because Ali was, I don't know if he was on the draft at that time. And whatever. And they just, you see, the thing was, what you have to realize is when people heard the word computer in them days, it was like a holy grail because the computers were like the size of a wall. It's safe to say probably 99% of the general public in most countries were computer illiterate. So I suppose the public perception was computers had minds of their own, that they could program them, throw a few stats in, and then it does some crazy technological, maneuver, and it comes up with the answer. But that's not how that goes. We all know that computers can only perform according to what programs we put in there. Yeah, they can't think for themselves. But basically, all they've done is punched in some stats from their fights and journalists and stuff, the opinions of journalists and writers, and the fact that they got rid of the other drafts. It just seems weird to me. They had an agenda. They had an agenda, in my opinion. There's apparently more computer fights that company has done. But after the Ali one, I'm not really interested. I'm not really interested, to be honest with you.
I'm catching the flashback.
This week in 1984 saw Vito Antuofermo, the cut-prone former world middleweight champion. He made a comeback after 3 years. And he fought a boxer named Richard Beranek. And it was a 5-round technical decision, as both men were really cut extremely badly. And Antuofermo didn't look too impressive. The bout took place in Atlantic City, a 10-rounder. On the cover, they had Jimmy Cable, who was the former British light middleweight champion, and Jerry Cooney. And Cooney was just coming off a 4th-round stoppage win over Phil Brown. This was Cooney's first bout after the loss to Larry Holmes. Jimmy Cable. I don't remember too much about. I remember when he fought Prince Rodney. I think Prince Rodney knocked him out in 1 round. I'm doing it's not a series as such. I don't know how much there are to really make it a series. But I'm going to set the ball rolling, right? Phil Brown versus Frank Bruno. Apparently it was quite a boring fight. It's not about the fight, really. The fight took place at probably Wembley or the Royal Albert Hall in London back in the 80s. That was the only Frank Bruno fight that was never televised, to my reckoning. It was never televised. For some reason, that bout was never televised. And Bruno had a big profile at the time, so it wasn't like an unknown fighter who's they didn't think was worth showing on television. It was a 10-round decision win for Bruno. I think that's the only time that he's won on points, apart from the Oliver McCall fight. And I call them mystery fights. Mike Tyson has one. He fought a guy named Larry Sims, and he KO'd him early. Tyson was killing everything when he was a youth. You know what I mean? So if you know of any other bouts, and don't go back way before, you know what I mean, there's a good chance that a lot of shit wasn't televised because cameras just wasn't readily available everywhere. And you know what I mean? So don't go back too far. Let's talk about from the 80s with popular boxers, famous boxers, you know. If you start talking about a gatekeeper or a journeyman just because he's your cousin, then it's going to be stupid. So I'm going to set the ball rolling with Mike Tyson versus Larry Sims, Frank Bruno versus Phil Brown. Mystery fights. Where are they? There are a few more mystery fights. I mean, where are they? I know some fights that have been cut off just before the first bell, and they've switched off the transmitters. I remember when Tom Collins, who was a British light heavyweight, former British light heavyweight champion, former European light heavyweight champion, and I think he might have been defending his European title. And I can't remember who he's fighting. And the opponent had some advertising on his trunks, and it wasn't authorized to be there, you know what I mean? And them cut off the transmitters, you know, and cut them off. Yeah. I never think I was pissed off that night, man. You know what I mean? I look forward to watch the boxing, you know what I mean? And I fucked it up, man. Fuck yeah, I'll never forget. And that's happened a few times. It's not the only time that's happened, actually. It's not the only time that's happened. So I suppose you could say they're in the mystery category. You know what I mean? But I'm going to say peace out with this one and say peace later on.